Welcome to Auburn Community Television and this episode of Meet the Artist. Meet the Artist is supported by the North Auburn Artists to introduce artists in our local community. Today we are south of Auburn, California in the city of Granite Bay. We are here to visit with local artist Unity Lewis. I met Unity last fall when he was doing a demonstration at the Gold Country Fair. People absolutely loved watching Unity and seeing how he created his abstract paintings. So I am so pleased to introduce Unity Lewis.
Hey, how you been?
I'm just fine.
Good to see you again.
Thank you, and
Thanks
I'm good to see you.
Yeah.
Well, this is such a pleasure for me. Ever since you were at the fair, I knew that I needed to have you here on the show, so thank you.
Well, it's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So I understand that you are a transplant actually to Granite Bay.
Yes, I am.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you used to be and how you ended up here?
Okay. So originally from Mid-City in Los Angeles. That's where my family has lived since the 1960s. My grandmother's house, my father still holds down and takes care of. That's where her art studio is. She's sort of a famous or important artist in the art community. Her name is Dr. Samela Lewis. But from Los Angeles, I moved to go to California College of the Arts in Oakland, California, where I lived for about 15 years. And then I came to join my mother's side of the family in Sacramento. And I've been in Sacramento, I was in Sacramento for about 6 or 7 years, and then came here to Granite Bay.
So now that you've been here in Granite Bay, you're a couple of years now?
Couple years, about 3 years,
And
going on 3 years.
you just devote all your time to creating your art.
Exactly.
Oh, how fortunate for you.
I know, it's such a blessing to be able to do so.
And I think it's great the way you mentioned your grandmother, that this art is in your family.
Yes.
And you have so much that you can draw upon.
Right. She definitely paved the way for me and passed the torch. She passed away it's been about almost almost a complete year now that she's passed. She passed away May 27th of last year. She was 99 years old and achieved so many great things in her life, not only as an artist herself, but also for her art community.
And she has created an amazing legacy in you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So describe a little bit for me how you would describe your art. I call you an abstract artist. That is part of what you do. But I know there's various types of abstract art. So let's talk about the variation that you do, because today we're going to see a lot of different type of artwork.
Yes. Well, a big part of my work is being able to release myself from my personality or my ego or anything that I would claim as my own, in a sense, and to let the energy just flow through and to channel in and to be a vessel for pure creative energy, and to almost be in a shamanic state when I work, especially when I work abstractly, to bring in a message that has been here before me, something that's beyond me, something that's timeless that will be here even when I'm gone.
Now, when you're doing your abstract work, because we're just going to focus on it a little bit, so what type of paints do you use with that? Is it acrylic? Is it oil? Watercolor? Pastel? Is it a little bit of everything?
It's a little bit of everything. I'm mostly mixed media. I've started to add some sculptural elements in the work, which you'll see in the demo that I'm doing later. But, primarily acrylic base, but I also use some aerosol, found objects. Sometimes I'll throw some pastel in there, like you said. Yeah.
Now, the other is that you have just told me today, and you showed me an example, you do murals as well.
I do. Currently, I'm working with the Florin Road Community Beautification Project, which is headed by the Sojourner Truth Museum in South Sacramento. And we've been commissioned by the city to do about 40 different murals, and also a good amount of 10-foot to 8-foot standing metal chairs. So we're going out there to beautify the community and also teach the history and the culture of our cultural arts.
And one of the things that we were talking about doing the murals, so you've actually come up with the design for at least the first mural, which is going to be pretty long, it looks like.
Yes, and essentially the vision behind the mural was by a woman named Shona McDaniels. And I was able to take her vision and construct or collage the different ideas with all the different youth that come and visit the museum. They're all part of the mural, all the different cultural aspects and elements, the African masks. We're focusing a lot on the work of artist Aaron Douglas, who was an artist in the Harlem Renaissance. Mm-hmm. And his work is kind of like the overarching theme, because we're educating about him and what he did. And I was able to construct and collage that into the initial template for the wall that I've been commissioned to do. Me and my team, I have a team of 4.
When will you actually start then painting the mural?
Oh, we've begun, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, last Saturday, we actually had a community event where we invited children, everybody really, to come out and join us in the painting. So that was a fantastic experience.
So how often are you out there painting on the mural?
I'm out there at least 4 days a week.
And where is this mural located if people want to come and see it in its progress and then after it's finished?
It's at the Sojourner Truth Museum in South Sacramento off of Florin Road.
I love that. I love when there is art in the community, and that's one of the most fabulous things about being in a community like Granite Bay, Auburn, well, in fact, Placer County, Sacramento as well. There's all of this public art that people can see. So it's wonderful that you're going to be a part of that as well. But you're going to be doing how many of these?
Well, I'm commissioned to do 1 for sure.
Okay.
And I'm also doing 2 10-foot metal chairs. Yeah, and I'm doing 1 to honor my grandmother and then another to honor the artist Aaron Douglas.
Now, where the chairs will be then placed in various locations around South Sacramento?
Exactly.
Yeah, because I love it when they do those things around each one of the cities.
Yeah, and this is my first big public sculptural work, so I'm excited.
Also, now going back to when you're creating your works, because I assume that you're using acrylic paint when you're doing the murals?
Yes.
Okay, so, but you're not doing any other of the mediums that are being put with it's just straight acrylic.
Exactly.
Okay, so it's going to be a little bit different than what we're going to be seeing today.
Yeah.
And the various things that you do.
Exactly.
So when you are actually deciding to do a piece, because like I said, you have various styles, do you sit down at a blank canvas and then it's just like let it come from you? Or do you have something that's kind of, you already have a vision when you sit down?
Well, when I do the abstracts, for example, I do the process that you just described, sitting down, letting it come to me. But then on the flip side, which to me is also as ego-free, when I'm trying to replicate something, I'm trying to do something photorealistic. I'm trying to do something like this piece, for example, which is a replication of one of my grandmother's works from the 60s. For me, it's about trying to see it as clear as possible, because the eyes will play tricks on you. Your mind will make you think that you see something the way it is, but you have to actually look at it. And it's an art form to actually learn how to look and observe. So, sometimes you have to blur your eyes and break things down into just shapes. There's different techniques that you use to actually be able to see what you're looking at and communicate that onto the canvas, because sometimes an artist will look at what they're doing and then look down at their canvas and try to replicate what they just saw in a minute, but what they just saw is not what they're looking at now, and it's actually an image of what they've created in their mind of what they think that they saw. So
and it changes
mm-hmm.
from the time that if you're sitting there and you walk away from it.
Yes.
And you come back and it's like, oh, or it's, that looks pretty good.
Right.
I know sometimes when I'm working on things that I can't figure out how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And just walking away allows my brain to kind of go through this process. And then I come back and it's like, okay, now I've got to figure it out. Or I come back and I realize, oh, that's the way it was supposed to be, the way I did it.
Right.
It looks fine that way.
100%.
So walking away is always a crucial point.
Oh, it's so crucial. Give your brain a breather.
A breather, and also, I guess, knowing when you're finished.
Yeah, that part.
That is one of the hardest things, because you're just, I know when I'm finished, when I'm so concerned that I'm going to actually screw it up. when I am at that point, I'm happy with it, and I know if I just take any more, I could screw it up. Then you're done.
That's a great indicator.
Yes.
Yeah, I have so many pieces that I've overdone. Trust me.
Yes. And it's funny because when you're doing them, you don't realize it. It's not until you walk away and then you again come back and you're going, okay, maybe I shouldn't have added that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let's kind of move a little bit.
Okay.
I want people to be able to see
Sure.
this one a little bit. This is one that you have created off of your grandmother's piece that she had previously done.
Yes.
Now, is this done in acrylic as well?
This is actually aerosol.
Oh, this is an aerosol.
Uh-huh. And initially, it was a part of a huge mural. So I had got the opportunity to do an exhibit at the Kaneko Gallery at ARC, American River College in Sacramento. And the show that I did was about the gap, bridging the gap between, or telling the history rather, between the Harlem Renaissance, the Black Arts Movement, and then what's currently happening in hip hop. But basically the whole story of Black art. And I was the first artist that they allowed to actually paint on the walls of the gallery. And they had their students coming in, watching me create. So it was like a 30-day process of just the creation that was open to the public to come and view. And then it sat on display for another month. And what I did was I put the canvas on the wall, and then I spread out from there onto the wall.
I see.
So when the exhibition was done, I took the canvas off of the wall, took it home.
And here it is.
Here it is.
Now, your grandmother's piece, what medium was she using when she created hers?
So she actually originally did this piece as a wood block print. And when I did the mural, I had her original piece hanging next to it. And, she's very famous for those stark wood block, black and white images. And this is considered one of her signature pieces, The Field.
Well, I love this one, and it makes a perfect background for our introduction. So right now, we are going to start looking at some of your various pieces of art, and you're going to find out that this man can create such a variety of art, from realistic to pores to just an abstract that will blow your mind. So let's go look at some of those paintings.
Hey, thank you.
Now we're at the favorite part for me for this program, and that's to talk about the various pieces that Unity has already completed. And part of the reason I love this part of this program is that we get to see the versatility that he has. So let's take a look at first, starting over closest to you, and the top piece that you have, and tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So this piece is called Miss Universe. I like I said, to bring the historical, cultural references into my work. And a lot of my figurative work focuses on Kemet, or what some people would know as ancient Egypt, or Akebalon, or what some people would know as Africa. So the culture in Africa is very rich in art, and it's influenced millennium of creative beings. And for me, at least for what we know through science and history, it's kind of like the spark of life and existence on this planet. And I tap into that through my African roots, because as an African American, a part of our culture has been disconnected from those roots. So a lot of the work that I do, especially the figurative work, is about the rediscovery of that. And in that, we find a lot of original, pure symbology that has to do with nature, and kind of like an older way of thinking that is, I would say, more in tune and alignment with the natural elements and way of life. So I just have this beautiful black woman here, just feeling herself and her connection to the universe, and kind of actually doing what I'm doing while I'm painting this, tapping into that and tapping into even her existence beyond this planet, to a more universal cosmic thing. And we have the honeybee here, which if there wasn't the bees, we wouldn't have oxygen. We have the lotus, or if you look the other way, it's the scale. We have the honeycomb, and here I have the colors, red, gold, and green, which is like, you can look at it as the earth and the sky, but it's also the colors of the Ethiopian flag, which is, Ethiopia is considered the last African civilization to be colonized, or wasn't really colonized by European powers. And it's also considered like one of the first places of civilization, and where they found the bones of Lucy and things like that. Before Ethiopia, you could trace it back to the Congo at like the foot of the River Nile, but Ethiopia is one of the first places that culminated a lot of this knowledge. It used to be called Kush, and they preserved that knowledge and then sent that into Egypt. So I deal with a lot of that kind of history in my work to inspire young Black artists to know that they're more than what we're depicted as in cinema or in media that doesn't really represent us. To let you know that we're something greater than we've been treated or depicted as in this country. We were kings and queens once. So.
Well, I love this particular one, and one of the things I do is just how it overlays all of the various patterns and things that you've created in this.
Oh yeah.
And it always makes me wonder, is like, what came first? Did the woman come first, or did the background come first? Right. So you're going to reveal that to us?
That's an ancient mystery.
It is. It's just, I love it. I love the colors and everything that you've selected here, and everything you've said about what you're trying to portray.
Yeah.
Comes through on this.
Right. Or is she the universe?
She definitely. I am woman. That's what comes to my mind when I see it.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So then let's move on to this really big piece here, which is a completely different style.
Yes. Okay. So this piece here, this was probably when I really started to culminate the pinnacle of my abstract journey with what some people know as poor painting. I like to call it rich painting. But the funny part about it is I didn't really know that was what I was doing before I started doing it. So like, for example, this piece here, this was kind of like the start of my journey with like spilling paint on the canvas and moving it around to see what it would do. And this is back in 2009. I had no idea that there was like a whole movement of people doing these pours and all of that stuff until about 2020-ish. And I learned, and so when I went on YouTube, I was like, I started doing abstracts again. And when I moved to this space in Granite Bay, actually, because I was able to spread out and I had this whole big studio to work in. So when I got here, I was like, okay, this is great. So I started experimenting with pouring stuff and other techniques. And then I was like, wait a minute, somebody has had to have done this before. So I went on YouTube and I typed in drip art or anything that closely related. And I found like all these tutorials of people doing all this stuff and using blow dryers and heat guns and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, this is cool. Some of this I can use. So this is probably the first time I really used a blow dryer and a heat gun to produce this kind of effect that's pretty popular in the art paint pour, the dirty pour community. And but it still has my unique style, I feel, because I'm kind of more so known for keeping the background white and then expanding from there and adding things out from there. This is a pretty famous piece because it's shown at the Golden One on their big monitor outside where the Kings play. people always take this piece and they use it for advertisements, when they're doing exhibitions, for my work. Seems to be just a favorite. And in me, I see it's almost like a Big Bang type of thing. I see all the colors of the earth in it. I see the water. I see the
It definitely
mountains.
does. There's an explosion of just what's happening here.
Yeah. And then I love to add glitter in a lot of my work,
There's
because
glitter.
it just catches the eye in a certain kind of way. And this also adds this metallic kind of element. It adds that element into it that I like. I like to have the elements in my work. So a lot of the colors that I use will be based in nature.
I really like the color choices that you've made.
Thank you.
And I think that's what when I catches my eye when I go around and I see this type of work that you're doing. Because it really is about understanding how those colors work together.
Yes.
And you definitely have captured this in this painting. So I
Thank
can understand why this one has kind of become symbolic of who you are in your work.
Yes. It's my signature abstract.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now let's go to this particular piece, which is a serograph.
Yes.
And I understand this is one of the inspirational pieces that you keep on your wall.
Definitely.
So let's talk a little bit about it.
Yes, it's a piece that I inherited from my grandmother, actually, by the artist Jacob Lawrence. And I love Jacob Lawrence because he always deals with historic, factual things in his work. He teaches history through his art. And this piece in particular is about Toussaint Louverture, who liberated what used to be called Santo Domingo and rose up from being a slave into one of the most important military generals in history and liberated Santo Domingo into what's now known as Haiti. So that's about his life.
Well, I can understand why he would be an inspiration to you because, like, as you were talking about this particular painting that you did, there's a historical reference that you're always drawing upon when you're doing these.
Yeah.
And that's what he was conveying as well.
Exactly.
So you are actually somewhat of a historian in art.
I feel like that. I feel like it.
All right, let's then, I know this is a very special piece, so let's talk a little bit about this one. It's another inspiration piece for you.
Yes, this piece is actually by my grandmother, and it's called Bayou Woman. It's basically reflecting on someone that she might have seen or an experience that she might have had from her life in Ponchatoula and New Orleans, Louisiana, where she grew up and where she was raised. But really, I love this piece stylistically because it really shows what my grandmother, like she can do all kinds of styles like me. She can do photorealism, she does abstract, but she really loved to create these characters that express and convey so much emotion through the faces. And also, she has a way of taking these geometric shapes and using that, putting that together in a way that not only creates figuratism, but it's also very expressionistic at the same time. Like if this was a piece where there were like 5 other people in it, they would all have different facial expressions and each one would just be a mood and like the core of that mood. And that's what she's really known for.
And I love the fact that you have included her artwork in among yours because it is, again, a part of you.
Yeah. So a big part of what I like to do, and this wall here is almost like a mini example, is to bridge the gap between all of the generations in this movement of art that I'm a part of. That's part of my lineage. And I do that often by curating exhibits and exhibitions that highlight the art of historic and important artists from the Harlem Renaissance all the way to up-and-coming and contemporary artists. And the dynamic of that is the artwork from the historic artists give the up-and-coming credibility and shoulders to stand on, while the up-and-coming keep the historic artists relevant, visible. You know, so it's a homogenous it's a symbiotic relationship in the exhibitions that I curate.
All right, so now we're going to go to a painting that really caught my eye when I walked into the studio. And let's see if I can get it here.
Ah.
Dead center.
There we go. I love this piece. So
Thank you.
tell me about this piece and Then I can tell you what it says to me.
Yeah. Well, I usually do that in the reverse. I usually ask people what it says to them, but because I don't like to fill the viewer's head with what I'm seeing. I'm trying to learn from the viewer 9 times out of 10. Well, 10 times out of 10. But for me, since you asked me, I'll tell you. For me, this piece is called The Metacurse, okay? And it's kind of about the evolution of technology and where we're going. And is it a good thing or a bad thing? What I see here is he has this VR setup type of thing. And it's almost like a helmet, but it's like there's like a skull like on his head. And it's almost like taking him over in a sense. That's one way you can look at it, but you can also look at it like he's walking in the dark. Even though all this stuff might be going on here, he might have this vision. There might be all kinds of dazzling stuff inside of there. In the reality, he's walking blindly. Yeah, that's kind of what I see. And then people depict this character as a man, as a woman, depending. I like it because it can go either way. Some people actually see him creating things, Some people see, is this like, what is he viewing? Is this like red and blue sirens? It could be like us constantly viewing our traumatization in society by, constantly being bombarded with images of us being abused by law enforcement or, many different things. Or it could be, maybe he's seeing a projection of the American dream, because it's red, white, and blue. There's just many different layers to this, even though it's quite a solid, stark, figurative image. But for me, it's called the Metacurse, because it's like, we have the technology, but is it a curse or is it a gift?
Oh, no, see, I do like that. Especially now we're all talking about AI, which is on everybody's subject right now.
Right.
Well, I'll tell you what I saw what it first attracted me. I love the black and white, and then I love the way that you brought in the colors, and particularly in the shield that's across the eyes.
Yes.
But I actually looked at it in terms of that it's actually depicting that the world in which we choose to see.
Yes.
And so that's where, this is what the world we want to see. And these are the hands that are showing the color of it. That's how I kind of saw it.
I love that. Yeah. And, it's good that you say choose. Is it a choice? Like, what would happen? Can he just take this off at any time?
And then would it just be black and white?
Yeah, right?
You do have that choice. But that's why I saw. But I love it. I think it's it just captures the eye so perfectly. So thank you for sharing this.
Of course. Thank you.
So there's so much around here we could talk about, so many of your paintings, but you're going to give us a demonstration today.
Oh, yeah.
So let's cut here and we'll go over to where you're going to do, what are you doing for us today?
I'm going to do these lava paintings that I've really been having a good time doing. Yeah, and it's an abstract thing in a sense. Yeah.
Well, then let's go over to the area where he has this all set up and let's start seeing how this works out.
Cool. So I've been working on this new style that's a blend of the abstract, but it's making direct reference to the volcanoes that have been erupting in Hawaii, such as Mauna Loa. I'm hearing about this new one, Krakatoa. I've been making work to honor that. Like I said, a lot of my work deals with honoring nature, as our ancient Kemetic ancestors did. They believed that God was nature. They called it Netur. So, and as far as the sun, the sun is very important, but also everything that's external is also internal. So the volcanic flow, like we almost have I almost want to describe it as a sun within the core of the earth. So, so I'm gonna show you how I create these volcanic flow art pieces. I guess that's what I'll call it for right now. So I'm gonna start with black paint actually. I know I said I do a lot of stuff that starts with the white base, but we're gonna start with the black base this time. I'm gonna do 2 at once. Okay, so this is kind of goopy. I actually want to put a little water, add a little water to this. Can I?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Sorry. And then you add me back in?
Yeah.
You're really going to test his abilities
Boy,
on this
I'm
one.
not good. Ba-ba-da-ba-da-bum-ba-dum-ba-dum. Damn it. Sorry. There we go.
Thanks.
So try as best you can to just say, okay, I've added water or something.
Okay.
Pick up the.
So I've added a little water to this. A lot of water to this, actually. That's okay. 'Cause I do want it to cover the surface really well. I'll do this one too. There we go. That's more like it. Here, I can do a little bit. Spreading this around. Now it gets really wet, but sometimes I actually use the plastic for pieces as well. There we go.
So you just buy your plastic by the yards?
I do. Yep. And, you know, if you really want to kind of spread this out even more, you can use the, mind moving that piece for me? You can use the blow dryer here to get it over those edges. Because I want to cover.
Are you using an acrylic paint for this?
Yeah, this is acrylic.
And I guess that, so just put water in it to basically reduce it down to the thickness that you need.
Exactly. And it's pretty, right now it's pretty thin. I put a lot of water in.
Now when
But
you,
what I'll do is I'll add more fresh bottles. And I'm gonna do a lot because I'm gonna stick little rocks on this. And I don't like to use adhesive. I just like to use just the paint.
now when you use the blow dryer, do you have it on hot, cold, warm?
I have it on hot and high.
Okay. See, now I'm surprised by that.
Yeah?
Because I would have thought the only thing you really needed was the breeze that's being, the air coming from it as opposed to the heat.
Pretty much. But this thing only has like 2 settings really. So I can either go low. Sometimes I go low. There we go. And you know, I'm actually liking some of the weird blues that are coming out in this, but I'm not even gonna use those. But you see it at different states and you're like, oh, that's so cool. But then it's gonna turn into something completely different. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Just want to make sure I get it fully covered. None of this paint will get wasted. I will literally take canvases and use the paint underneath as a stamp to make a whole new image.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I love that. That's very enterprising.
Okay, I can use this popsicle stick to tighten up some of these edges. All right, so now I'm gonna take some of these rocks here, and you can get them in black, but the ones that they had at the store that were in black weren't as organic of a shape. They were all like round, and then they were also like really big. So I didn't want those. I wanted something about this size so it doesn't weigh down the piece too much. And I can just paint it black.
Now, when you're choosing the placement of it, have you already kind of had an idea where you were going to be putting it? Or did you
Honestly,
just win?
this time around, no. I did not. With this one, I have an idea, but this triangle here, I'm like kind of just winging it. But I'm starting to get a vision.
This is on the triangle.
I'm starting to get a vision of what should happen here. And I'm kind of just listening to what it's telling me to do. And what I think it's telling me to do is make this like where the flow is gonna come out, in a sense.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm following you.
Right? It seems the most logical. So, and this one here is going to be very different.
So the paint itself is actually the adhesive for these going on.
Yeah. I'll probably do another round of some of this black acrylic, and then I'm going to add some spray paint to it. The kind of acrylic I use is, the kind of spray paint that I'm using is acrylic spray paint as well, so I can spray it in the house and it doesn't stink everything up.
So we're going to get a combination of different types of paint. They're all acrylic based, but different ways of, I guess, application.
Exactly. And then you have the rocks bringing it into the assemblage realm.
Now, when you're doing the pour like this, and I notice that like on the edges you have some drips that come down, do those get evened up later, or?
Yeah, I'll come back in with a popsicle stick and smooth out everything.
And same if there's some of the areas on the edge that you didn't quite get at with that, you can come back in and
Exactly. I
deal
can
with
take
that.
take some of the overspill here, actually, even clean that up.
Now, how quickly do these dry?
Depends on how much paint I use, but honestly, these have been overnight.
So
But-
that allows you a lot of time to manipulate what you're doing
Yes.
in terms of the creation.
Yes, and this is actually the first time that I'm using shaped canvases. Never done that yet. But I saw them at the store and it was like, that looks cool.
Great time to experiment when you're on a television program.
I know, right? Can't be scared, you just gotta go. Let it flow. Because, you can't really mess this up, I feel.
I've come to a point in my art that I realized is that something that I may think is a mistake, or maybe it's not quite as perfect, actually becomes just a part of the painting. It's
Yeah.
not to get so crazy about the perfection that I try to bring.
Right. Yeah. When I did the art walk, for example, the pieces that I didn't like but decided to show anyway, those are the ones that sold.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It's not about me.
No. This is part of what you're saying is you need to put your ego aside.
Yep. Exactly. And it's especially hard to do that when you're showing, because you want to show your best and whatnot. But different people have different tastes and bring different insight even to what you're doing. Sometimes they see stuff that you don't.
Well, thank goodness.
I
It'd
know.
be a pretty boring society if everybody was exactly alike and liked the same things.
Right? So yeah, I get a couple of different textures of stone in here.
So no, these look a little more rounded.
Yeah. This is so therapeutic for me, honestly. It's just, I really love just helping guide this along. I'm liking that. I'm liking this one as is, honestly. I like the blue in it. And
Yeah, when I was standing off to the side, I could kind of see the blue that was streaking through it when the light is reflecting on it.
yeah. All right. So now I'm gonna add some lava.
Really quick, so the bottles that you're using here, the colors, yeah, so what are these, and is this, it comes like this, the paint does?
Yeah, this paint, it's thinner acrylic, so it's easier to pour. I'm gonna add just a little bit more actually, so that it adheres better.
And I had to tell you something really funny, because when people talk about pouring paint, I always think of thinking of big cans of paint that they would be trying to handle and pour. And I always wondered how on earth they manage those, but now I can understand.
Yep. You know, that was the hardest thing, because when you watch the tutorials on YouTube, it's just like, yeah, they just pour it and then they just like move the paint around and it's all so fluid. No, you really have to learn how to get the consistency right. And that took me months to figure out. It took me a very long time to figure out, oh, I need to dilute this. I needed to get it at a certain consistency to really flow and work the way it's supposed to. So now I'm adding some black spray paint, acrylic-based spray paint, to get the colors of the rocks all black so that it looks more like a volcanic rock.
Now, when you get different colors of the paint, does that affect its consistency?
Well, you know what's interesting? You see how there's different colors in here already, but it's all the same paint?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, yeah, the consistency of the paint will affect the color. Yeah. And this is a completely different kind of black, but it seems to blend very well.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So now I got that layer down. And the important thing is that this is super wet. Because when it's wet, then the paints can flow and, crash into each other how they're supposed to. All right, so now we're gonna get some of these other cool colors jumping off in here. This is the really fun part. Actually, the whole process is super fun. And I know that some of y'all are gonna try to copy me after you see this, but that's okay. I don't mind. This is for the universe.
Well, you're actually inspiring me, because now I'm thinking, I could go home and do this.
I'm saying.
But of course, my husband's gonna have to give up his very small square footage of the studio area.
You about to have a whole space for volcanic paintings now.
Exactly. Maybe even he'll have to give up his desk.
Hey, art is important. Gotta make sacrifices.
That's right. Unfortunately, it's all his.
Yeah, just tapping into that inner sun.
Oh, I love the way, and then it just spreads through.
Yeah. I like going straight from the bottle. Some people pour it into cups, but I don't really have to for this, so. Yeah, tapping into that inner sun, and even when I'm making these, I'm tapping into the inner light inside of myself to bring this out. And trying to get that to shine through. Yeah. Ooh.
And sometimes they just do what they want to do.
Sometimes they just do what they want to do. You gotta let it do what it does.
Well, I like the dripping that we're getting over on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which one?
This one onto
Oh, yeah.
your right.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know, it's dripping off the edge.
Yeah, and see that, I'll make a stamp out of that. I'll
Right.
put a canvas face down.
Same thing over here too. Very cool.
You know, and through this process, sometimes it'll get to a place where I'm like, yo, I don't even want to do anything else. But then, gotta keep in mind how cool it is when it gets to this part. So actually, I'm gonna go not high, because I want to have a little bit more control. Really swallow that up. Oh man, this is explosive here at the top. Oh yeah. Wow. I'm actually loving that. I am loving that.
It's so interesting because it looked like there that the black had swallowed up the rest, but then when you brought the blow dryer in, you were able to blow off the black and there's the color.
Right? I am loving it. And I like how it's darker here at the base because it almost looks like it's melting down. I'm really glad I chose to do a shape.
Yeah, I'm digging this triangle here.
Yeah. Bring some of these other. Get that tip right. All right, let's see what's on. Just chill on that for a minute. Let's see what's going on with this. I'm glad y'all came here to have me do this. But you know, I really like this work because it's like anybody can essentially tap into this. It's not like you have to. There's like a barrier for people. You know, you just gotta have a blow dryer and the right tools. And it does take time and some experience to actually understand the technique. I'll give it that. But it's a really good way. It's a really good art therapy method for people because there's no mistakes. So you can just tap into it and make something beautiful that you can appreciate. So I really have a good time doing these.
So I guess when somebody says, well, I can't do art because I can't draw, you just need to say, oh, there's so many different forms of art.
Exactly.
They don't require you to get a piece of paper and a pencil and to draw.
Exactly. And also, you know, if you ever get stuck or feel like you don't know what to draw, just lay some stuff down. Just lay some paint down and see what happens. All right, I'm gonna add some more yellow here. You know, because oftentimes you'll start seeing something in the abstract. Just lay something down, make some shapes. Like when I step back from these, there's so many things that you can see. Like the piece that I brought out here to give an example, I see a little being in that. Like I see little spirits in these things. I see clouds, I see animals. You know, there's so much that can be seen out of the abstract. And it's up to you how much you want to bring that out or leave it for the viewer to bring out with their own vision.
Well, this is going to sound like a cliche, but you actually do become one with your art.
Yes. Yeah. Become unified.
You do. And there's so much freedom to this.
Yes. Yeah, this is feel-good art to me, you know? It makes me feel really good. And I learn from it, you know? Like, I learn from just looking at it. And sometimes I see stuff. When I see stuff that I didn't calculate, and I can't believe that came through this hand or this being or me or whatever, I'm like, wow, that's great. That's like me being one with nature and just the creative force. So yeah.
There's sometimes when I'll look at things and go, where did that come from?
Yeah.
And it is pretty amazing.
That's what I live for.
Yes.
That download. I'm trying to blow my own mind here. Or let the spirit blow my mind. Really. So yeah, I think I'm cool with this. Yeah, that's good.
One other comment about the colors that you selected here and the order that you put them on, because the yellow did go on last. Have you found that putting them on a specific order is better than in other ways? Or?
Yeah, I can kind of calculate it because I know that the layer that I put on first is gonna swallow up the layer that I put on top of it. So if I want the little highlighter, the little streak, to be the brightest thing, or the color that I want to be the trim, in a sense, I'll put that last. I'll put that on top. Like, had I put the yellow on as the base, it would have been mostly yellow, not orange. Mm-hmm. Yeah, add some of this here. But yeah, I like this style because I'm not seeing anybody really tap into that, and it's pulling from an energy that's here on the planet Earth. It's pulling from, it's giving reverence to these volcanoes, you know, which is like the lava is like the blood of the planet. So it feels good to be doing something to honor that and to draw attention to that and to remind people of this force, this energetic force that can inspire us, but also is greater than us. Take us out any minute. So I try to give reverence to it and show some love and appreciation for it and be in harmony with it so it knows I'm on its side.
Well, while you're cleaning that up, I think that we'll probably be bringing this to a close because we are running out of some time here.
Yes.
Why don't you tell those that are viewing us how is the best way to get in contact with you?
All right.
By giving, if you have a phone number, a website, ways that they can see more of your work.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, first and foremost, for having me here. It's been such an honor and such a blast creating this work and sharing my experience with you. You can catch me at unitylewis.com. That's where you'll find the majority of my stuff. But if you're on social media, you can also see me at Instagram on Unity aka YP. That's UNITY aka YP. YP stands for Young Precise. I also do music. That's like my music moniker.
I really want to thank you, Unity, for spending the time with us this morning. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here.
I also want to thank you for tuning in to Auburn Community Television by either seeing us on Wave Channel 20 or catching us on YouTube. I hope that by watching this episode and others that we show, that you maybe will discover that you have an artist just living around the corner, or just perhaps you've discovered the artist within.